Welcome to October 17th, 2018. I'm Chris McClary with your daily CIRF report. We're looking at a lot of volatility and it's coming through in the dreams. I think you picked a good day to watch the CIRF report because if you end up seeing this influence playing out in your life today, hopefully you'll know exactly how to surf those energies. So let's follow through it. I actually wanted to start with the DreamBot first. And the DreamBot is the collection of dreams. Here's what people were dreaming about around the world, mainly the US and possibly Canada. But the red arrows are all about financial volatility. Falling, chasing, reel, away, pay, climb, sorry, number, grabbed, afraid, quickly, ran, and up. And so the words pay and number, I think, come together and say, hey, all this volatility is for pretty much specifically the financial markets. And of course, as the financial markets show a lot of volatility, then the rest of our lives are also affected because everything's run or seemingly run by money. Just about everything in today's world. Now, notice that the top two words in this meme are fall and falling. So the tendency is a downward, but with words like up and climb, and I think there's another one away, there's some up too. So it's up and down, but the overall tendency is probably down. That pretty much matches what it looks like the financial markets are doing. Is this predictive of where the financial markets are headed, which is further falling? Some people say yes. I've seen some estimates recently of more than 50% declines from here. So we'll see. I'm not making that prediction at all based on what I see here. There's no specifics there. But I do know that everybody would be interested if I were to establish a connection between the financial markets and the DreamBot. And actually I did. I haven't pursued it. That was a few years ago and got busy. And so maybe it's time to bring that back. But that's interesting. Congruence is the blue arrows. Congruence meaning, does the outside match what's happening on the inside? And let's just go through the run. Inner, mean, what does it mean? View, quiet, creature, front. You're putting on a front, like the surface. The front is the surface. So this is the exterior, but there's also the inner. So the inner and the quiet creature. So what is happening on the inside, and does it match? Can we trust the outside to show us what's happening on the inside? I think the answer is no. That's what I'm kind of gathering from the astrology. So let's look at the astrology. I really wished I hadn't gotten rid of some of my keyboard keys. I'm going to have to redo those. Anyway, astrology. We'll start with numerology. 17. High standards can be very orderly, but as we digress or get the negative side of this, you can be bossy. And is that showing up in the astrology? Well, yeah, the moon is has high standards and practical in Capricorn. It was in Capricorn a little bit earlier in the evening. Now, as of this recording, the moon is in Aquarius. And it's going to first make its square to Uranus. Now, Uranus is all about change and rebuilding and even rebelliousness. But I just want to highlight this idea about the finances and the financial volatility. If there's a volatility planet, it's Uranus. So that's a match today. Big match. Ever since Uranus went into Taurus, people have been predicting the financial markets and the volatility increasing. And I think we're just now seeing that. I think that was started in May. Not the volatility, but the Uranus going into Taurus was around May. So we're just now seeing this volatility, I think, playing out. And I'm pretty sure there'll be more of this volatility, especially if the dreams are all showing volatility. So anyway, The moon squaring Uranus is disruption in the collective states of being. That's what Taurus is kind of the way life is, the way of life. And with the moon kind of touching that square and the Uranus being in that way of life, we're going to have changes there. And people are going to be impatient and jumpy. You might even see a lot of rebelliousness and big changes. So you're going to, it'd be interesting to see if you see that in your dreams, because that's about the time when you're going to, or a lot of us are going to be on our last little dream cycle before waking up. Then there's going to be a square to Venus a little bit later in the day, and this is where we get into, square is not all that great of a, it can be a challenging aspect, if you will, and in this particular relationship, you might be analyzing other people, kind of like we saw in the DreamBot. You're seeing whether or not there's congruence there. You're analyzing the relationship. And if we degrade, you might get into more of neediness and dependency and probably lack of trust. And we saw that congruence there. This has to do with relationships mostly, but it also has to do with finance. So you kind of, this neediness in relation to money and all your well-being type of relationships, very close relationships and finance and that kind of stuff. So kind of codependency showing up there and neediness. So watch for that. And so the overall influence is just going to be change and volatility, and then possibly this lack of trust or lack of congruence. Okay, let's go with that. Let's do our transition. We'll come back and talk about how to orchestrate that. And if you haven't already, subscribe so that you don't miss any one of these episodes. Thank you for your likes and shares, and go ahead and comment and do all that stuff too. But how do we deal with volatility? It's stressful. Change is kind of a constant in life. And those who can be good with change is what we call in ACT therapy is called psychological flexibility. And that's really, in essence, what we're trying to achieve in our own lives, in the clients' lives. And psychological flexibility gives us the ability to do something like this in our own lives, is be good with these ups and downs. Maybe not be good with it, but not just get so bent out of shape when things change. Big change is very, very stressful. That can be very bad on the immune system. And if you're constantly changing, you're constantly adapting, that stress response can put you into fight or flight, and constant fight or flight is disastrous for your chronic health condition. So, but change is good because it keeps our brain healthy. So it's kind of a paradox, and this paradox has to do with kind of the choices, the inner choices that we made. If you choose to get more and more rigid, which kind of your standard human being does, as you get older, the brain loses its plasticity and therefore just falls into habitual patterns. But that's kind of how it deteriorates the brain in when you're doing this. And so being good with this change brings about, forces adaptability in the brain, which improves plasticity. So in other words, you can habituate into volatility and change. And therefore, the good side of this is that you don't get too stressed out, and you get added brain boost by being able to roll with those punches. So, resist the urge to be comfortable today. Resist the urge to be assured of really anything and go with the unknown. With the two squares that we have, there is a lot of unknowns. And so if you can just take a deep breath and first of all just say this will be temporary. If you know, a lot of people who are getting used to being able to change throughout life, they have to kind of reassure themselves like that and just say the universe has my back. I'm going to be good. This is temporary. What's another common phrase is this too shall pass, you know, that sort of thing. But in the future, if you can really habituate this, you don't need this whole cognitive crutch, which is just to reassure you it's only temporary. One of the mechanisms you can do this is to choose gratitude and gratitude for the change. I just showed you one of the reasons for positive portion of change and adaptability, which is a healthier brain. You're forcing your brain to adapt, and it increases its plasticity. There's other benefits too, which is it just brings about more color in life. I saw a dad who degraded just into habitual patterns and got more and more rigid and more and more irritable. Is there any coincidence that dementia patients get very irritable? Because there's no change, and change livens up the life. It does make it feel like a roller coaster. And this sensation, neither good nor bad. It's how it's used, it's how it's interpreted. So anyway, I'm sorry I didn't give a whole lot of practical guidance, so let me give you that now. Take a deep breath, assure yourself, roll with the changes, foster gratitude. Watch others as you become more aware of this phenomenon. This volatility is just going to be natural today, I think. And just knowing this is going to be a great deal of help, because you can watch other people going through this unconsciously and they're going to struggle through the whole thing. Don't struggle. Allow the universe to just do its volatility thing. And if you can foster gratitude throughout, then that automatically transcends you out of, you know, the stressful part of the change. So you can just roll with the punches and breathe deep, relax into it, and see what part you have in this new change, whatever is changing. Now, the only other thing that I'd like to talk about is this sensation, kind of like what I have here in the roller coaster, is how the belly just kind of free falls on this downside. Well, imagine these financial markets. That sensation does happen, and it feels like there's no bottom. But just like the roller coaster, there will be a bottom. And if you can just sit back, put your hands up, and enjoy the ride, that'll make all the difference in the world. And I know that life is not like this roller coaster. It's not just pay a little bit of money and get frightened a little bit. It can be really scary in this life. I get this. But everything has its reason. Every downside has its reason. Everything that causes us problems, yes, we do tend to exacerbate those and even create those sometimes. But building awareness, you can know what you're doing and stop doing those things that cause yourself pain. But other times, it's out of your hands. And I think these are one of those days. Out of your hands. So relax, put your hands up, and enjoy the ride. All right, that's a wrap today. Thanks for your subscription. Thanks for your likes and shares. And we will see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.